presented by Vintage Guitar Magazine, with your host, me, James Patrick Regan, otherwise known as Jimmy from the Deadlies. And today I'm speaking with singer and guitarist with both the Outlaws and Blackhawk, Henry Paul. In our conversation, Henry discusses how he keeps the two bands' material straight, often touring with both bands on coinciding dates. Henry takes us through his musical upbringing, talking about his heroes early on, and gives us insight as to what the music scene was like in Tampa in the 60s and early 70s, having bands like Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Allmans nearby, and going to see the Beatles at Shea Stadium. Henry takes us through the formation of the Outlaws and what it was like to be in a band with a huge hit, Green Grass and High Tides. And Henry talks about his retirement and having his son taking over the band and what it's like touring in his 70s with his son in the band. Henry discusses moving to Nashville in 1990 ahead of the masses, and Henry describes his guitar travels, starting at a young age playing Gibsons and Martins, and eventually getting a white Gibson ES330 like his hero, Richie Furay. And Henry talks about Gurian guitars, one of his favorites. Henry tells us a little bit about his car collection, and Henry finally tells us about his book, The Last Outlaw, that's available now, and why he's written it. To find out more about Henry, you can go to his website, henrypaul.com. That's HENRYPAUL.com. Please subscribe, like, comment, share, and most of all, review this podcast. I'd really appreciate it. And please support Vintage Guitar Magazine and all the wonderful things they do for us guitar players, because they do so many wonderful things for us guitar players. Here's my buddy Henry. So how you doing, Henry?
I'm doing good.
Good. Glad to hear it.
I'm doing good. And how about you?
Oh, I'm doing fine. I'm fine. Hey, I've got a question for you. How do you keep track of what band you're singing for? You have your Blackhawk dates right intermixed with your Outlaws dates.
Yeah, I mean it's really crazy because you can do a half a dozen Blackhawk dates, and then the next day you're doing Green Grass and High Tides. Putting that band that I've got together was critical, and everybody in Nashville wants to be a rock star. None of the country, musicians are proud of their contribution to music because it doesn't have any critical credibility. I mean, country music can be so lame, so everybody's running around in combat boots. You would think that, it was a heavy metal knockoff city. But I it's not hard. I mean, it's really kind of nice in a way too, because especially when you get a string of outlaw dates and you're really starting to wear down because it's such a physical date. Yeah. And you get to do the singer-songwriter Blackhawk thing with the harmony vocals, and it's pretty, and it's much different. And so it's all in there, and I know the words to the songs. Very rarely I have to, dig deep for that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you ever intermix Blackhawk songs in the Outlaws show, or vice versa?
No, as a rule, no, because the fan bases are so completely different.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
But there are times when I'll do an acoustic show, sort of for a charity, and I can play pretty much what I want, and that really works good for me because there's some great songs in the Blackhawk collection, and there's some great songs in the Outlaws. It kind of all comes to me.
I mean, clearly iconic songs with the Outlaws. Those songs.
Yes,
those songs are staples.
Yeah, 50 years later, I mean, there's. It's really funny too with the Outlaws. It's sort of a cult band, compared to Lynyrd Skynyrd.
Yeah.
The Outlaws have a step or two, not down, but away from the popularity poll, and while some people might find that a bit of a negative, I really like not being so mainstream. I always gravitated towards musical personalities that were not everybody's favorite,
Sure. Were your parents musical? How did you end up singing so much?
I don't know. The short answer is yes and no. I mean, my grandmother had a great soprano voice, and when you sat next to her in church, it was almost embarrassing.
Mm-hmm.
The same with my dad, but the trouble with my father was he didn't have any pitch, and he would sing mercifully flat, and it was embarrassing in a different sort of way. Mm-hmm. But I think I just sort of forced my will upon myself, as a musical personality.
Were you listening to radio, or were you listening to, or was there music on TV when you were growing up?
No, not yet. Well, yes and no. I mean, going back to when I was my first impressions, this would be in the probably late 50s. I missed the Elvis phenomena. I knew it was going on, but I didn't know anything about it, nor did I care.
Yeah.
Where I got on the boat was kind of Richie Valens.
Okay.
Bobby. Rydell, these teenage, and I really loved the records like Frankie Avalon, Venus. Uh-huh. I just loved that record, and so I kind of got on the musical bandwagon, and I used to, when Del Shannon came out with Runaway, it blew my mind. Uh-huh. I mean, it was far and away my favorite song. And I imitated him, and my sisters and I would have talent contests on Friday night. My parents would go out on a date or something.
Sure.
And we'd put on, a record, and we'd stand on the kitchen table and lip sync and put on a performance. And I always insisted that I won the contest.
Were you living in Florida at this time, or were you living up in New York?
No, this was in Florida.
Okay, all right. And what was the music scene like in Florida, in Tampa, when you're a young kid?
Yeah, ferocious. I mean, let me give you a little insight. So I left after the 9th grade to go to New York and spent the 10th grade and half of my 11th grade in New York.
Okay.
The music scene there was lame. Uh-huh. Lame. The music scene in Tampa was ferocious.
Okay.
Great bands and scads of them.
Okay.
And I never really wanted to be in a band necessarily. I always wanted to be a singer and a songwriter. But eventually I caved and put a group together. But yeah, the Tampa music scene was like unbelievable.
Uh-huh. Any notable bands that made it big?
Well, the Outlaws were probably the biggest. Okay. Jacksonville, of course, had Lynyrd Skynyrd, and they had the Allman Brothers, kind of were a Daytona Beach, Jacksonville band.
Okay.
Steve Alamo. The guy from the Flying Burrito Brothers, what was his name, the singer? You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
But he was from, like, Polk County, I think Winter Haven or something. So it was, I don't know, it was just each city had their own band. So Lynyrd Skynyrd was Jacksonville. The Allman Brothers moved to Macon, so they were a Georgia band, but at that late date. And Tampa had the Outlaws.
Yep.
Yeah, and we were very, understandably proud to represent our hometown.
Sure. It was Graham Parsons that you're thinking of, probably.
Yeah, he's from Auburndale or somewhere over there. But the music scene, there was a band called the Romans that were very popular, and Bertie Higgins played drums in the Romans, and it was, a pretty snappy place to be.
Sure. And did you get a chance to see any of these bands when you're younger?
Oh, yes. Yes. And you'll love this one. I was living in New York at the time, and my stepbrother, Ty, asked me if I wanted to take the bus down to New York and go to Shea Stadium to see the Beatles.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, yeah, that sounds like fun. It was like a $5 bus ride and $5.50 for the ticket. And so we got down to Port Authority and got on the subway, went out to Queens, got off right there in the, World's Fairgrounds, and walked over to the stadium and plunked down $5.50 and walked in and grabbed a seat, and out comes Paul McCartney and John Lennon.
Wow.
And so I'm just sitting there with these 50,000 screaming people, and it was just, once in a lifetime memory.
Oh, sure. How did you get hooked up with Outlaws? I mean, how did that?
Well, yeah, I put a band together. I was living in New York at the time, in the city, mm-hmm. and I was chosen to come up and cut some demos for Epic.
Okay.
A guy that worked at Columbia saw me in a club and asked me if I wanted to come up and audition for Epic. And, of course, I'd been in New York maybe 6 months, and I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. So
sure.
That, was an eye-opener. And the assessment of me was that I might consider moving to Nashville because the folk music thing was kind of wrapped up, and everybody was having bands, and I might want to go to Nashville, which I, at that time, agreed to do. I had a friend in Florida who called me up and said, I want to bring you down to Tampa to do a concert with these other two musical groups that have gone to New York and got record deals and are doing their music on a national level. Uh-huh. So I came down to Tampa and played this show at the Armory in front of a couple thousand college students.
Wow.
And decided, well, I was going to leave New York. I was going to take this band that I had put together and come back to Tampa. Uh-huh. And in that personnel mix, I came down with 4 people, and Monty, the drummer in the Outlaws, was the drummer in the band, and I was to meet him when I got to Tampa, and we were going to rehearse and put our musical personality together. Uh-huh. And then one of the boys got homesick, the bass player, and Monty said, hey, I know a guy, great bass player, his name's Frank O'Keefe, and I call Frank. Frank comes over and joins the band. Band's called Sienna, like the color in the crayon box.
Okay.
And the guitar player, he vamooses, the saxophone player that I had in the band, a flute player, he boogalooed, and when the guitar player, was done with what he was doing in Florida and wanted to go back to New York, Huey Thomason was doing nothing, and he joined the band. So now I had Sienna with myself, Monty, Frank, and Huey. Uh-huh. And we changed the name, I'd say about 6 months, maybe a year later, we changed the name to the Outlaws because Huey and Monty and Frank had been in a band called the Outlaws. And they had some local connections, and we thought we might get more work.
Yeah.
And so we changed the name, and Billy Jones moved back from Colorado and joined the band, and that's the 5-piece group that went out and got, the record deal and made good.
Yeah. What was it like? I mean, when Greengrass came out, what was it like for you? Like just being amidst all that success?
Yeah. Well, it happened earlier, actually, before we became a national act, even just as a regional band opening shows for Marshall Tucker or Lynyrd Skynyrd. I mean, we had a pretty stout little 45-minute set, and, we weren't stealing the show necessarily, but we were holding our own. And we knew Greengrass was and to this day is such a incredible musical moment that it's almost like it doesn't matter what kind of night you're having. By the time you're done with that song, everybody loves you like there's no tomorrow. So, and that was the song that we worked up as a group. It started out as like a 3.5-minute ballad, and then we arranged that outro section, and the song took on a completely different life. But it does not suck to have a song like that in your bag.
No. Did you see money from that song, like right out of the gate?
Well, yes. I mean, at that time, album-oriented rock was huge.
Yeah.
And while we did not have a real high placed chart record on top 40 radio, we had an album-oriented rock classic, and it meant money for us. Record sales, concert dates.
Oh, yeah.
And And so, I mean, to this day, the performance royalties on that song are, you can't retire on it, but it's still substantial. The album-oriented rock format is it hasn't gone completely away, but it's not what it was.
No.
And, but it still, performs well, and, the Blackhawk thing is crazy. I mean, how good it does, but the Outlaws still do pretty damn good.
Yeah, you're constantly touring. Is that correct? Like you don't take time off hardly at all.
No, I mean I'm leaving tonight. I go to North Carolina for 2 nights.
Yeah.
I get home Sunday for my son's birthday party, and Monday at 6 I'm going to Canada to do the Lynyrd Skynyrd tour in Canada, like 15 shows with Skynyrd.
Wow.
So I stay busy. Blackhawk is incredibly busy. And
yeah.
So I do 100, 120 dates a year, and that my young wife and my little children that I have from my second marriage have lobbied hard for me to retire. And, we'll see. I know next year I'm going to go back and do this again. And after that, I'd really kind of like to just sit on a stool with a couple people and sing and play and tell stories instead of putting the band. My son is quite an accomplished guitarist, and he's a great singer, and believe it or not, he sounds like his dad, and the band loves him and the fans love him. He's been out with me since he was 10, and I just said, man, you need to take the Outlaws and stand in the middle and sing in front of the group and be that guy. And so eventually I think he's going to do that.
Right on. Is he playing in the Outlaws?
He is.
Okay.
I invited him into the band this year, and he has been in the band since we started this year's touring schedule.
Right on.
And he sings, a couple, 3 songs a night with us, and the fans love him. He's one of those guys that knows his way around up there.
Yeah. And what's it like having 6 people touring with you?
Well, we travel in a single bus, and we have a road crew, so there's 12 bunks in the bus, and every one of them are taken. So we do, we stay really busy that way, and we're a tight-knit band and crew. I mean, I'm old school. I mean, I came up when your band and crew lived together, traveled together, and, perform together, and that's still the case. A lot of larger, stars, if for lack of a better word, they have a professional staff of people, and they put them on retainer, and they don't see them for months. We're always on the bus together. We spend our lives together, and it's really cool. I mean, I love it. Just because it's so communal.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's the old school way of doing things. Do you own that bus?
No, God, you don't want to do that. They're so expensive to repair, and I've been leasing with this company for so long that the bus that I travel in every year, I keep it year round.
Okay.
And it's like I'm leasing it, but I pay by the day, but I'm busy, and I'm a valued client of theirs. It's a real small family-owned company, and it's really inside and really cool.
Are most of the guys in the band based in Nashville?
Everyone,
Okay.
It's almost mandatory because the bus comes and goes. Otherwise, you'd be traveling to get there and back, and you don't want to do that.
Yep, I am. Yep. And when did you move to Nashville?
I moved up here in 1990.
Okay.
I left the Outlaws. My last date in the Outlaws was New Year's Eve, 1988. 1989, I bought 2 homes in the neighborhood I lived in and renovated them and turned them for profit and did pretty good that year. And then I started to commute and 1990, I started to commute between Nashville and Tampa.
Okay.
And I'd go up and write songs for 3 or 4 days and come home and spend 10 days demoing the songs. And I just did that for a year and a half.
Uh-huh.
And I got traction in Nashville and signed a deal with EMI Music as a songwriter, and then signed again for my second time with Arista in 91.
Okay.
So I went back to where I started. But this time we had like multi-platinum success. It was like absolutely crazy what that felt like, because the Outlaws, we were very successful, but we had gold records, and we were just in a different group. But the Blackhawk thing blew up, and I got this really late in life success that was unheard of.
Yeah. And I've seen lots of pictures of you with a guitar. When did you start playing guitar?
I started when I was 13.
Oh, wow.
My stepbrother, Ty, that's when I moved to New York. After the 9th grade, I just moved back in with my dad. And Ty, my stepbrother, taught me how to play. And I bought one of those spray-painted plywood jobs with brass frets.
Yeah.
I think it was $13 in a pawn shop. I had to play chords and sing songs on it, and eventually just kind of traded up until I got to a Gibson J50.
Okay.
And then I eventually got a Martin, a 1967 Martin D28, and I played a Gibson 330, which was it was a custom guitar.
Uh-huh.
In that it was a white 330, and I was a huge Richie Fusée fan.
Yeah.
And Richie played a white 355, and so I went and got this white 330, and I played it for a long time.
Right on. And with the P90 pickups in it?
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you have a guitar collection now?
I do. I gave a lot of it to my son.
Okay.
They were in the house on stands. I probably have a dozen or so guitars, mostly acoustics. I have like a D45. I have a 1950 J45, a 56 J50, and then I have an Ovation Adamus, the prototype for the beginning of what the Adamus became.
Oh, right on.
And then I'm trying to think. I had a 335, a red one that was given to me by Pat Simmons of the Doobie Brothers. And I refinished the damn thing white because I wanted it white, and I played it forever. But I gave that to my son, and I had a white Rickenbacker 6-string, a 370 triple pickup that I gave to him, and so I just keep. I haven't got a J200 here at the house, and I just write on them. I don't sit up there and practice. I just go up and dream up songs and put them on tape and go and make records on them.
Yeah. Was there ever a time that you played guitar with either Blackhawk or the Outlaws on stage?
I always played, rhythm guitar in front of the band. That was kind of my gig.
Okay.
In both bands, and like in the Blackhawk thing, I've got a Gibson mandolin that I play, and I have two J200s, a black and a red J200. And these guitars and that mando, they've been with me on the road since '94.
Wow.
And they are beat to crap, but they sound great, and I play them every night.
Yeah. What about amps? Do you have an amp collection at all?
I don't. I have a couple Fenders. I'm playing through a DeVille that I had mounted in a Showman cabinet, the big wide head, and it fits perfect.
Yeah.
And then I have the 212 Showman bottom. I'm playing a Gretsch. It was a Black Falcon. I bought it new, and there was a guy in Chattanooga that was like, gaga in the refinishing business, factory quality refinishing. And I couldn't get a Gretsch in red, so I asked him, and I bought a black Falcon with the humbuckers and it had a black headstock, and he refinished the rest of the guitar, the neck and body, beautiful red, almost like a Bel Air Matador red. And that's what I've been playing for the last 3, 4, maybe 5 years.
Okay, right on. Do you ever go to Carter's or Grun's or any place like that?
Oh, you're talking about the guitar shops?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, God, I used to go, I'm trying to remember the name, Gruen?
Yeah, Grun's.
Yeah, I used to go down there and just look at the acoustic guitars, and drool. And I enjoy guitars. I've just done it for so long. I kind of it's not in me anymore, that desire to go buy them and collect them.
Yeah.
But I have what I want. I mean, I have to say that the 1950 J45 is lights out. And the 56 J50 is in great, really incredible shape. Sure. The Martin, and are you familiar with Gurian? Michael Gurian was a guy from New Hampshire that used to supply Martin and Gibson with wood.
Okay.
And he made an acoustic guitar, and this is going back to the 70s. And I was a huge fan of him. I bought a mahogany sides and back Gurian. And I was on the road with Little Feat, and this would be 1976, and we were touring Europe with them. And Lowell and I were pretty good pals. And one day I was down in the dressing room, we were talking, and he was playing this Gurian, but it was a rosewood sides and back, a beautiful Gurian. And I said, I can't believe you're playing a Gurian guitar. I mean, not many people know about them, and I've got a mahogany version of what you're playing. He goes, well, this isn't mine. This is Jackson Brown's. He loaned it to me for this tour because I didn't have one. And so, it's the aesthetics of guitars are they can be sort of driven by the marketplace, or they can be driven by your instinctive sense of aesthetic value. There was a guitar shop in the Village when I lived there called Matt Humanoff. It was a famous downtown guitar shop for the folk crowd, the artsy-fartsy wood music crowd.
Yep.
And then there were those shops up there on 47th, I think it was, all those huge music stores. And so I used to comb through them, and I still love guitars. I just stopped buying as many.
Yeah, I understand. Did you ever collect anything else? Do you ever collect cars or watches or any of the
cars?
Cars?
I've had an ongoing collection of antique automobiles, usually one at a time, because my garage couldn't handle. I didn't have, the outbuilding full. But I would do a classic American car. I started with a 53 Chevy Bel Air 4-door. Not a sporty automobile, but I loved it. It was one of my best friend's moms.
Okay.
And I painted it, and I cleaned. The interior was in good shape, and I sold that to a friend of mine, and then I bought a 57 Bel Air Sport Coupe, turquoise with a white top, and it was ready to race, and I kept that for a few years. I moved into a 65 Stingray.
Oh, wow.
That I loved, a red 300 horse Stingray, and I kept that for a while, and then I got a 53 Chevy 3600 pickup, a 3/4 ton pickup that I brought back to Mint and sold that. And now I've got a 1950 Dodge pickup in the garage.
Oh, right on.
You know, and a turquoise with red wheels.
Oh, my God.
Wide white walls.
Yeah.
And yeah, I never got the motorcycle bug, but the antique car and truck thing I still dabble in.
Yeah, right on. That's that's cool. Those are.
Yeah, I'm thinking seriously about buying another Bel Air. I want a Matador red Bel Air.
Right on.
57.
Is it hard to find parts for those cars? This late?
Not for that one. The aftermarket parts profile out there is huge for the 55, 6, and 7 Chevrolets. Same with Mustangs. You know, from the mid 60s forward.
Yep.
Dodge parts, they're out there. They're a little more expensive and a little harder to find, but you can find them. But the Chevy pickup, the 49 through 54, even going through the Apache series in the mid 50s, I mean, you can get parts for them pretty easily, and they're fairly reasonable. And I'm talking about front grills and bumpers and quarter panels, and you can get everything.
Yeah. Right.
So, yeah, it's really, for me, I just love that.
Yeah. Why'd you decide to write a book?
Well, that's a good question. And I was, of course, I had that suggested to me on a fairly regular basis.
Sure. Yep.
For a while. And, everybody seems to have a book out there. So it wasn't, a novel idea that I was driven to do. But I thought I was getting, I was in my mid 70s and I had this unique kind of perspective on the advent of the Southern rock phenomena.
Yeah, of course.
And I lived close to all these people for a number of years and grew to know everybody. And I thought, everybody from that genre is, for the most part, is gone. I mean, there's Paul Riddle from the Marshall Tucker Band and Doug Gray. But, J-Mo's alive, but everybody's pretty much gone. And so I thought it might be timely to kind of put it on paper and, share with the fans a little bit. It's kind of like, I was a big Bob Dylan fan, and when he wrote Chronicles, I went out and immediately bought it and took it and read it 2 or 3 times. I just poured over his early days in New York City. I just loved that story. And so I thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and do this. And, the book turned out really well. And, the photographs are interesting. And, I wasn't, taking a tell-all approach. I just was trying to tell the story, how it happened, and who these people were and what they meant to me, and my bandmates and everything. And it's pretty biographical stylistically, and it doesn't have a whole lot of ugly passages. I have read a few books like this and always frowned upon finger pointing. I know Al Cooper's got a book out there, and it sounds like he's still pretty bitter over the Blood, Sweat, and Tears thing, but I don't know. I'm a huge Al Cooper fan, but he still appears to be pissed off.
Billy Bob did your forward. Are you good friends with Billy Bob?
Yeah, he's a fan, and
right on.
And we're friends, and he's a very down-to-earth, gifted individual. His theatrical work is, a career for him, but music is his, I think his number one passion is being in a band and having a really, he tours and goes out and does that. And, people, when you made such a big name for yourself in the theatrical world, it's, I'm just imagining for him, it must be a really nice alternative to get on a bus full of guys and go and play venues where you're appreciated in front of a large audience, exactly. To support you. I think I'm happy for him to have that, because I don't have a large theatrical career to back on, but he loves the Outlaws, he loves Lynyrd Skynyrd, he loves the Allman Brothers, and one of the things he said in that forward was that those bands from the South were sort of like representatives of his generation, and he was proud that the South had, recognizable bands that made it, because it was tough growing up in the South because of some of the racial stigmas, and
sure.
I think that history documents, going back to the Civil War, that it was a little bit of a divided culture, and it was nice to see that music was a common denominator that spoke a language that everyone appreciated.
Absolutely. And did you ever get the opportunity to meet Richie Furay?
I did, and I lived in awe of him during his early run with Poco. I was aware of Richie and his contributions to the Buffalo Springfield, but I was just this enormous Poco fan, and my goal, I loved country music as a kid, and my goal was, going back to Graham Parsons, was to try and be a part of that generational shift from country music as a specific musical genre to incorporating it into popular music. And Poco did an incredible job at that, probably the best. There were other bands, but Stephen Stills, his Manassas thing was incredible. Of course, Crosby, Stills, and Nash is almost like unheard of. Especially that first album was brilliant. So that was kind of like, very motivating for me, because Bob Dylan's Bringing It All Back Home and Highway 61 Revisited really spoke to me. And you could be, like Neil Young, you could be a poetic voice and still rock the room. And I always appreciated the width of that artistic impression. I thought it was really, really cool.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take too much more of your time, Henry. I really appreciate you speaking with me. This has been fascinating. And an honor.
I'm a big fan of your publication and a big fan of what this opportunity meant. So thank you for that.
Oh, it's an honor for us. I see you're coming to Turlock in October. And
I am.
And hopefully I get an opportunity to run into you there in person.
Well, you have my number. If you call me, I'll drag you out kicking and screaming.
Right on. Very good. Well, thank you, Henry.
All right. Yes, sir. You have a good day.
You as well. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Have Guitar Will Travel. You can catch up on all the things I'm doing at thedeadlies.com, and I'm on all the social media platforms as well. And please support Vintage Guitar and all the wonderful things they do, because they do many, many wonderful things for us guitar players. Thanks. Please subscribe. Please tell a friend, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye, guys.